What is up, guys? YodaDaWise back here again with a breakdown, and we have a new commander, Mechanical Puppet. So let's take a look at him. Let's see what he's all about. All right, so Mechanical Puppet, they never really cease to fail when it comes to actually designing the skins for these characters, and I give Seven Pirates that. It's just sometimes their descriptions of things are just so like it just relates to bad translation usually, but it doesn't necessarily give you a good idea of what it does until you're able to kind of play with it. And even then, all these new commanders with their skills, you really don't know how good they are until you see somebody who decided to put max leads on them and have level 50 gear on them and use them in galactic battle, where you really get to see how it works. I mean, I feel like that's what happened with War Machine. We really couldn't see his potential until someone decided to finally main him, and then we saw, he's actually, But coming back to Mechanical Puppet, let's go over his skills. So his first skill is a 60% chance rate, places a substitute puppet which will bear 1% of received damage. That one does fairly do what it says it does. It puts down a marker and it's going to take whatever percentage of the damage is at level 60 and decrease that from what your troops are actually going to absorb. The second one, Puppet Blade, is also 60% chance to trigger if the substitute puppet exists. So if the first skill has been triggered already, a percent of the attack damage is not affected by the damage reduction effects. Now this is where it kind of, like I said, it doesn't translate well, because what does that mean? Damage reduction effects? Are we talking about damage reductions in terms of gear? Are we talking about other skills that play into effect damage reduction? It's not very clear. On the other hand, if the substitute puppet did not trigger, this time the attack will ignore percentage of HP buffs. So it's kind of like, I would equate this to Vega's breakdown skill, to where it ignores a percentage of defense. I know there's another commander where it ignores HP, but same concept. It's going to ignore a percentage of HP if its first skill wasn't triggered already. That leads us to wonder, how is he going to work? How is it going to fare? I have a couple replays that I've saved, and let's take a look at those. So this first one is, as you can see, I don't main infantry, so my infantry stat is going to be fairly weak in terms of gear. I put it like this is what I put on my Stella, just because I have her as mainly just a one slot kind of comm. But I mean, it does enough for us to see what he does. The reason why this is a good example is because this individual put on the Daijin tier 12 troop, so we can see how his Puppet Blade works against the sub skill that the Daijin has, which is puts up like a barrier to absorb damage. And also, I would like to point out that Wings of Eternity are probably going to be the best fourth skill for this commander. All right, so we have the first one down, and Puppet Blade, and as you notice, it's completely ignoring the absorption sub skill that the T12 in this case have, completely ignoring it. And that's where we finally find a definition of how this is kind of going to work. The next replay will show us exactly what it means by it ignores damage reduction skills. So this is a Hancock. Once again, I don't have the right gear necessarily probably to put on Mechanical Puppet, so most of these are all simulated battles within the guild, so most people had different gears that were better just because they main certain commanders that I don't, and that's what put this into perspective in terms of why I only killed about 514. But that's not the point of this replay. The point of this replay is to show how his second skill, Puppet Blade, works. So we all know that Hancock has an enormous first skill there, the Feral Instinct, that makes him barely invulnerable. But as you see here, Puppet Blade, and I'll slow it down, it just ignores altogether his instinct there. And we'll see it again on the next slide here. Substitute Puppet, Puppet Blade, boom, 100% just ignores his Hancock's first skill. So in theory, this is in theory, if you have the level 50 gear, if you have it set up correctly, and you have all of his skills to 60 and then Wings of Eternity to 30, this could be another Hancock killer. I didn't get a chance to get a good or a replay of Rogers, but I would assume because it's ignoring Hancock's skill, it'll more than likely ignore defensive stance on Rogers. So this could be the infantry answer to those super, killers that everyone, well, Rogers has kind of gotten nerfed at this point. Most people don't really use Rogers anymore, but Hancock still, and even if you do come up against the Rogers, like these are going to be those killers, and anybody that has like a high defensive stat kind of build to them, that's what this is going to be that answer to. Also, like all the others new comms, they've been developing specific gear for them. With the puppet, it's a weapon. It's this one right here. It's called Soul Cutter. Mechanical puppet. It's passive. When the mechanical puppet is equipped with this equipment, the skill puppet blade will affect both attack effects, giving you penetration and attack. So when we went over his second skill, Puppet Blade, we showed that if Substitute Puppet isn't there, then it doesn't ignore damage reduction. It just takes a percentage or ignores a percentage of HP. With Soul Cutter on, you're not only going to, you're going to get both. You're going to ignore HP stats and you're going to ignore damage reduction stats. I do have this weapon. It was only at level 20. I really kind of wanted to see how it worked without it. That's why none of my replays had this in there. I did get it though, just in case down the line that I decide to get T12 infantry and have more than one high-powered leadership commander. At least I have it. So that's that. It's a cool comm. Like I said, in past videos, the way that these new commanders are being built or produced by Seven Pirates is that they are meant to be max leadership with level 50 gear and their skills maxed out for them to really be a benefit anymore. I feel like after Dragon Slayer, we really lost that status to where, even if you don't have full leadership, it could still do something for you. And even if you had a lower tier, it could still do something for you. And that's where we see in the older comms like King, to where the meta produced King to be actually this stupendous just one slot killer with Wings of Eternity and T11 infantry. So the older comms, you could have lower tier and still make a big difference. On these newer commanders that they've been producing, it's pushing people to you really need to have that max leadership and top gear in order for it to function correctly. So please leave a like, subscribe, pass it around, let your friends know. My next video will hopefully be on the Soul Reaver.